Quran. Describe in detail various methods/sources of Tafseer 10. B. Why was it important to write Tafseers of the Quran? 4. Ans. A. In order to fully understand the Quran, a special science began to develop during the life of the Prophet, called Tafseer of the Quran. The word Tafseer is the noun form of the Arabic verb fassara, that means, explain/interpret/expound etc. Tafseer of Quran means a detailed interpretation or exegesis of the Quranic teachings. A scholar writing a tafsir is called a mufassir, plural mufassirin/mufassirun. There are four main methods or sources of tafsir. 1. Tafsir of Quran by Quran. This means the Quran itself explains many of its teachings. Such explanation may be given in the same surah or in some other surahs/surahs of the Quran. For example, the Quran says, "No vision can grasp him, but his grasp is over all vision." 6:103, Al-An'am. This verse tells the readers of the Quran that humans cannot see Allah. However, other Quranic verses explain that the pious Muslims will be blessed to see Allah on the Day of Judgment. Surah 75, in this regard says, "Some faces that day will beam, looking towards their Lord." 75:23, Al-Qiyamah. Some of the Quranic verses are abrogated, mansukh verses, by some other verses, nasikh verses. Similarly, some verses change or abrogate some other verses. The verse that abrogates another verse is called nasikh/abrogating verse, and abrogated verse is called mansukh verse. The Quran mentions both as, if we ever abrogate a verse or cause it to be forgotten, we replace it with a better of similar one. 2:106, Al-Baqarah. An important example of such verses is about the Muhajirin and Ansar. In the early Madinian life, when an Ansari died, his property was inherited by his Muhajir brother, and this tradition was based on the Quranic command, "They who believed in Allah and migrated and fought in the way of Allah with all their wealth and life, and those who gave them shelter and helped them, are brothers of each other." 8:10, Al-Anfal. However, after the Battle of Badr this practice was abandoned by another Quranic verse, "Those having blood relations are more entitled to each other's inheritance." 8:75, Al-Anfal. 2. Tafsir of the Quran by the Sunnah/Hadith. The Sunnah or Hadith of the Prophet expounds most of the Quranic teachings. This verse refers to this source, "We revealed the Quran to you so that you explain to the people what has been sent down to them." 1644, Al-Nahl. The Quran, for example, says, "We indeed granted you the abundance." 107:1, Al-Kauthar. According to a hadith reported by Anas bin Malik, the Prophet told that the word abundance referred to a special river in paradise. Sahih Muslim, Musnad Ahmad. The Quran commands the Muslims to offer salat and pay zakat, and establish regular prayer and pay the charity tax. 243, Al-Baqarah. However, details of observances of these two pillars are provided by such hadiths as, "There is no prayer of the one who doesn't recite Al-Fatiha." Similarly, for zakat, he instructed, "No charity tax is due on fewer than 5 camels." 3. Tafsir of the Quran by the companions. The Prophet's companions had witnessed the revelation of the Quran on him, and seen how he acted upon its teachings. For this reason, Hazrat Aisha said, his, Prophet's, morals are the Quran. In this regard the closest companions were of special help. They included the 4 caliphs and the scribes like Abdullah bin Masud, Ubay bin Ka'b and Zayd bin Thabit. The reports of the companions are called the author. The companions best knew the circumstances of revelation, the asbab al-nuzul. These are a vital component of the tafsir. 4. Tafsir of the tabi'in and tabi'in. The tabi'in learned the teachings of the Quran directly from the companions, and transmitted them to their followers, the tabi'in. The Prophet described these people in a hadith, "The best people are those of my generation, then those who come after them, tabi'in, then those who come after them, tabi'in, B. The Quran provides fundamentals of Islamic teachings, and at some places it gives details of some important issues. The Quran repeatedly commands its readers to ponder and to reason. For example, it says, "These are the verses of the Book of Wisdom." 10:1, Yunus. Most of its teachings were explained by the Sunnah to the companions who began to write the commentaries on the Quran. Thus began the science of Tafseer. Muslim scholars of later times found the application of the Quranic teachings on rapidly changing circumstances, and this necessitated more work on Tafseer. Various commentators/mufassirin gave their own viewpoint about various Quranic injunctions. As a result of this, different schools of fiqh/legal thinking began to emerge, and that further enhanced the importance of Tafseer writing. This way, the Quranic teachings became relevant to a variety of conditions of the upcoming Muslim generations. Compulsory question. The Holy Quran as a source of Islamic law, legal thinking. Shall I, Muhammad, seek a judge other than Allah while He is the one who has revealed for you the book with the truth perfectly explained? 6:114, Alan Aam. Q. A. Describe with the help of examples how Quran provides guidance about the fundamental laws of Islam. 10. B. Explain the significance of the Quran being revealed to humankind for ans. A. The Quran is the most important and fundamental source of Islamic law. It provides guidance for all walks of life, as stated in this verse, "Nothing have we omitted from the book." 638 Al-An'am. The Quran instructs its followers to rely on it in working out details of Islamic law by saying, "Judge between them by what Allah has revealed and follow not their vain desires." 549, Al-Maida. It encompasses all areas related to individual and communal Muslim conduct. It deals with both civil and criminal laws. For example, it provides guidance about the laws of inheritance. It prescribes such simple rules as, Allah directs you concerning your children, to the male a portion to that of 2 females. 411, Al-Nisa. For the number of marriages, it commands Muslim men, marry women of your choice, 2 or 3 or 4, but if you fear you shall not be able to deal justly, then only 1. 4:3, Al-Nisa. It also mentions the basic rules regarding divorce. It says, when you intend to divorce women, then divorce them with concern for their waiting period/iddah and count it accurately. 65:1, Al-Talaq. Regarding the crime of unjust killing, the Quran says, life for life, eye for eye, nose for nose, ear for ear, tooth for tooth and wounds equal for equal. But if anyone remits the retaliation by way of charity, it is an act of atonement for himself. 545, Al-Maida. It prescribes punishment for fornication and libel/slander, the woman and the man guilty of adultery, flog each of them with 100 stripes. 24:2, Al-Nur. Similarly for slander or false charge of adultery it says, and those who launch a charge against chaste women and do not produce 4 witnesses, flog them with 80 stripes. 24:4, Al-Nur. The Quran prescribes the punishment of theft, too, as for the thieves, male or female, cut off their hands. 538, Al-Maida. The Quran lays down rules for the permitted/halal and non-permitted/haram foods and other things. It commands Muslim to shun drinking, gambling, and other un-Islamic practices, O you who believe. Intoxicants and gambling, sacrificing of stones and arrows are all abomination of Satan's handiwork, shun them so that you may prosper. 5:90, Al-Maida. It allows Muslims to eat the meat of herbivores/animals that do not eat flesh, lawful to you are all beasts of cattle, with the exceptions named. 5:1, Al-Maida. It further elaborates the haram foods as, forbidden to you are carrion, flesh of the dead animals, blood, and swine, what is slaughtered in the name of any other than Allah, what is killed by strangling, beating, a fall, or gored/violent killing to death. 5:3, Al-Maida. the Quranic teachings guide the Muslims regarding the rights and the property of the orphans. And give to the orphans their properties, and do not substitute the defective, of your own, for the good, of theirs. And do not consume their properties into your own. Indeed that is a great sin. 4:2, Al-Nisa. The Quran forbids bribery by saying, and do not consume one another's wealth unjustly, nor use it for a bait for the judges with the intention that you may eat up wrongfully and knowingly, a little of other people's property. 2:188, Al-Baqarah, it guides Muslims about the permissible means of earning, but Allah has permitted trade and forbidden interest/riba. 2:275, Al-Baqarah. Finally, the Quran also guides about Allah's commandments regarding the acts of worship. For example, it enjoins Muslims to observe Salat and Zakat, and be steadfast in prayer, and give the charity tax/zakat. 243, Al-Baqarah, its commandment about fasting is, fasting has been prescribed to you, so every one of you who sees this month should spend it in fasting. 2:183-185, Al-Baqarah, Hajj is the fifth pillar of Islam about which the Quran says, pilgrimage to the house is a duty men owe to Allah, those who can afford the journey. 3:97, Al-Imran, it is important to note that all other sources of legal thinking are dependent on the Quran. B. The Holy Quran is the last divine message revealed on the last messenger of Allah, Hazrat Muhammad. It contains guidance for all ages and communities. It is destined to serve as the criterion to distinguish the right from wrong as is declared in many of its verses. For instance, blessed is he who sent down the criterion to his servant that it may be an abomination to all creatures. 25:1, Al-Furqan. The Quran shows Allah's concern about humans who are born with a vulnerability to Satan and his host of helpers. By revealing the Quran, Allah provided a shield to humans against all evils, and a guidance to the right path. The Quran guides humans in matters concerning beliefs, acts of worship as well as issues related to social interaction. It is the medium through which humans can contact Allah and seek His mercy and guidance. P1Q2, compulsory question. The Quran and Sunnah/Hadith as source of legal thinking. Obey Allah and obey the Messenger, and if you obey him, you will be rightly guided. 24:54, Al-Nur. Q. A. How are the Quran and Hadith used together in Islamic legal thinking? 10. Or. Describe how the two main sources of Islamic legal thinking are related. 10. Or. Write about the way in which the two primary sources of Islamic legal thinking are used. 10. Or. The Sunnah is often used with the Quran as a primary source of Islamic law. Describe the ways in which they are used together. 10. B. The Quran is not as relevant to Muslims now as it was 1,400 years ago. Give 2 reasons to agree or disagree with this statement. 4. Ans. A. The Quran and Sunnah/Hadith are collectively called the primary sources/asl of Islamic legal thinking. The Quran is the basis of all thought and action and legal thinking in Islam. Usually, it provides fundamental rules of lawmaking, and Sunnah/Hadith provides the details of these rules. Both Quran and Hadith support the use of Sunnah with the Quran in legal thinking. For example, Quran says, and obey Allah and obey the Messenger. 459, Al-Nisa, the Prophet also declared, I have been given the Quran and something similar to it. As a rule, the Quran and Sunnah cannot contradict each other. Instead, Sunnah supports the Quran either by fully interpreting its teachings or by supplementing them. For example, the Quran commands, and establish regular prayer and pay the charity tax, 243, Al-Baqarah. However, the Quran does not mention the number of daily prayers and the method of offering them. The Prophet guided in this regard as, say your prayers you have seen me saying. He further said, there is no prayer for the one who does not recite Al-Fatiha. Then he demonstrated the detailed method of offering each rakat of salat. Similarly, the Quran is silent about the details of nisab, or the minimum amount of wealth on which Muslims are required to pay zakat. According to a hadith, no charity tax is due on property amounting to less than 5 uqiyah of silver, and no charity tax is due on fewer than 5 camels, and there is no charity tax on fewer than 5 wask of dates or grains. 1 wask equals 135 kilograms, 1 uqiyah equals 128 grams. By using these units, Muslim legal experts calculated the nisab. For example, for 7.5 tolas of gold or 52.5 tolas of silver, 2.5% of their value is to be paid as zakat. Comes or 1/5. Of the income from the mines is calculated on the basis of this hadith. On treasures extracted from the earth, 1/5 is due as zakat. The Quran, similarly, forbids the practice of charging riba/interest but gives no details about the definition of usury/riba. It simply says, Allah has permitted trade and forbidden riba. 2:275, Al-Baqarah, the Prophet elaborated the details of riba by saying, "Do not sell gold for gold unless equal in weight, nor silver for silver unless equal in weight, but you can sell gold for silver or silver for gold as you like." This means bartering of same commodities between two people with different prices is usury or riba. However, bartering of two different commodities is trade, and so, permissible. For example, gold in exchange for silver or wheat in exchange for dates is allowed as both items have different prices. The Quran only mentions the blood money/diya or diyat, but does not specify its details. It commands, the law of equality, qisas, is prescribed to you in cases of murder, but if any remission is made by the brother of the slain, then grant any reasonable demand. 2:178, Al-Baqarah. The Prophet defined the amount of blood money as, if anyone is killed accidentally, his blood money should be 100 camels, 30 she-camels of 2 years old, 30 she-camels of 3 years of age, 30 she-camels of 4 years of age, and 10 male camels of 3 years of age. In another hadith, the Prophet fixed the blood money to 800 dinars/gold coins or 8,000 dirhams/silver coins. Later, Caliph Umar fixed it at 1,000 dinars or 10,000 dirhams. Moreover, for the people of the book, the blood money was half of that for Muslims. The Quran guides about the details of inheritance as, the share of the male is like that of 2 females. 4:11, Al-Nisa, the Prophet supplemented the ruling by mentioning the share of grandmother as 1/6 of the remaining estate after other inheritors have taken their share. Regarding the same matter, the Prophet laid down a fundamental rule: a Muslim is not entitled to inherit from a non-Muslim, and a non-Muslim is not entitled to inherit from a Muslim. B. Among all the revealed books, Quran is the only book that has retained its originality in language and content. The Quranic teachings guide humankind to live a righteous life according to divine dictates. If this fundamental rule is followed, the whole world may enjoy harmony and tranquility. Thus Muslims have sufficient guidance in it. With the changing times, there are not many issues that have not been dealt with in the Quran. Instead, Quran has mentioned many realities that modern science discovered much later. For example, the Quran says, "With power and skill did we construct the firmament, and indeed we are its expander." 51:47, Al-Hariyat, modern astronomy discovered in the 1920s that the galaxies are in a constant state of expansion. Another verse says, "We made from water every living thing." Will they not then believe? 21:30, Al-Anbiya, it was not until 20th century that the biologists discovered the aquatic origin of all forms of life, which Quran has told 1,400 years ago.